Today, we are diving into an ancient military campaign from China that honestly feels less like a dusty history lesson and more like a modern guide to winning people over. We're talking about the incredible story of the 7 captures of Meng Huo, a true masterclass in psychological warfare, run by one of the greatest strategic minds to ever live. Let's get into it. And right at the center of this whole thing is this single idea from the man himself, the legendary strategist Zhuge Liang. This one sentence changes the entire game. The goal isn't just to win the war, it's to win over the enemy. It's not about destruction, it's about persuasion. So that's the big question, right? I mean, how on earth do you turn a bitter enemy into a loyal ally? Especially when they've got an army, they know the terrain better than you, and they fundamentally do not trust you. Well, that's exactly what we're going to break down. We're going to look at this in 4 parts. First, we'll see why just using brute force was never really an option. Then we'll get into the main event, the 7 steps psychological takedown. After that, we'll look at what happened in the long run. And finally, we'll connect all this ancient wisdom to our world today. Okay, so let's set the scene. The emperor of the Shu Han kingdom has just died, which, as you can imagine, leaves the kingdom in a really vulnerable spot. And the strategist, Zhuge Liang, is staring down a crisis that could rip everything apart. So, down in the south, a bunch of tribes called the Nanzhong have decided this is the perfect time to rebel. Their leader is a guy named Meng Huo, and he's a tough, respected chief. The real problem, though, is the land itself. It's all mountains and jungle, just treacherous territory. Zhuge Liang knew that even if he won a quick victory, he could get stuck in a long, drawn-out fight that would bleed his kingdom dry. And this is where one of his advisors gives him some game-changing advice. He says, a military victory is just temporary. The real, lasting solution is攻心为上. Attacking the heart is supreme. Basically, the only way to truly win is to make your enemy want to join your side. And that idea becomes the blueprint for this entire campaign. So how did Zhuge Liang actually pull this off? Well, now we're going to walk through each of the 7 captures, and you'll see they aren't just random battles. They are very deliberate, calculated steps in one of the most brilliant psychological operations in history. Step 1, you have to establish dominance. Meng Huo thinks he's clever. He sets up an ambush, totally confident he knows the land better. But Zhuge Liang outsmarts him, using a classic pincer move to absolutely demolish his army. Meng Huo is captured, instantly. The message couldn't be clearer. If you fight me head-on, you will lose. So Zhuge Liang lets him go. And what does Meng Huo do? He tries to get tricky. He sends his brother to pretend to surrender, planning a surprise attack from the inside. But Zhuge Liang sees it coming a mile away. He plays along, welcomes the defectors, gets them all drunk at a feast, and bam! Captures them all. When Meng Huo attacks, he walks right into another trap. The new lesson for Meng Huo? Okay, my strength didn't work, and now my tricks don't work either. This guy is always one step ahead of me. All right, so for round 3, Meng Huo falls back to his greatest advantage, the terrain. He makes camp on the other side of the Liu River, which is basically seen as impassable. He figures there's no way Zhuge Liang's army can get to him. But Zhuge Liang just goes around it. He sends troops upstream to find a crossing and attacks Meng Huo from behind. He's captured for a 3rd time. Now, the psychological hit is huge. Even the land itself can't protect you from me. This is where it gets wild. Meng Huo calls it an ally who commands an army of trained tigers, wolves, and venomous snakes. I mean, can you imagine? But Zhuge Liang doesn't panic. He fights superstition with pure ingenuity. He has his men build these giant wooden beasts that roll forward, spitting fire and making insane noises. The real animals freak out and end up stampeding back through Meng Huo's own army. The message here? Your magic is no match for my mind. Okay, now Meng Huo is getting desperate. He pulls out his trump card, the elite Rattan armor army. This stuff was like ancient world super tack. The armor was made of special vines that were totally immune to swords and arrows, and it was so light it could float. But it had one fatal flaw. It was made of vines soaked in oil. So Zhuge Liang lures them into a narrow valley, blocks the exits, and simply lights it on fire. He took his enemy's greatest strength and turned it into their biggest weakness. At this point, Meng Huo is just done. He's humiliated, he retreats to his fortress and just refuses to come out and fight. So Zhuge Liang changes his strategy.
No more attacks. Instead, he just besieges the fortress. He actually diverts a river and floods Meng Huo out. The point he's making is crystal clear. Resisting me now isn't about fighting for a victory. It's just choosing to suffer.
For his very last move, Meng Huo resorts to poisoning the water wells, basically biological warfare. But even that doesn't work. Zhuge Liang finds a local who knows about a natural antidote, cures his army, and then easily captures Meng Huo for the 7th and final time. At this point, he's beaten Meng Huo's army, his tricks, his terrain, his magic, his best tech, and even his poison. There is literally nothing left.
So, let's put it all together. This wasn't just a string of lucky wins. It was a systematic 7-phase campaign. You see the pattern? Each step was laser-focused on dismantling one specific reason Meng Huo had for fighting, from his military pride to his faith in the land, all the way down to his last desperate tricks. All that was left was the undeniable truth of Zhuge Liang's total superiority, and, remarkably, his constant mercy.
Okay, so he captured Meng Huo 7 times. He won. But did the whole attacking the heart thing actually work? What happened after the war was over?
You know, the best answer comes from Meng Huo himself. After that 7th capture, Zhuge Liang finally asks him, "Will you submit now?" And Meng Huo, apparently in tears, says this. He's not just surrendering because he lost. He's pledging loyalty for himself and for future generations because he was so moved by the mercy he was shown. His heart was finally, truly conquered. And Zhuge Liang's brilliance didn't stop there. He didn't just install his own people to rule the south. Nope. He made Meng Huo and the other local chiefs the governors of their own lands. He shared better farming and building techniques to improve their lives. He even set up schools, but made sure to respect their local culture. He wasn't occupying them. He was making them partners. And because of that, the southern border was peaceful for decades.
So yeah, it's an incredible story from history. But what does it have to do with us? How can we actually apply these ancient ideas to our jobs, our teams, or even our everyday conflicts?
Let's translate it. Zhuge Liang's military strength is your professional competence, just being really good at what you do. Shattering confidence isn't about crushing people, it's about being brave enough to tackle the real problems head-on, instead of letting things slide. Conquering hearts is building a great team culture where people want to be, instead of just forcing a bunch of rules on them. And giving mercy? Well, that's giving people the space to try and fail, and acknowledging their effort, not just the result. So, if we were to turn this into a playbook for you, it looks something like this. First, try to understand why someone is doing something. Don't just react to what they did. Second, always look for the win-win. Don't assume that for you to win, someone else has to lose. Third, and this is a big one, always give the other person a graceful way out. And finally, think long-term. Focus on building the relationship, not just winning the argument today. Because in the end, it all comes back to this one powerful idea. It doesn't matter if you're on a battlefield or in a boardroom. The biggest, most lasting wins aren't the ones that leave people feeling defeated. They're the ones that bring people together. And that really is the final thought to take away from all this. The next time you find yourself in any kind of conflict, just pause and ask yourself that one question. Are you trying to win the argument, or are you trying to win the person? Your answer might